This is Matt Gamzer, CEO of the SME Finance Forum from the International Finance Corporation, and it's my great honor to be moderating this very interesting panel. As I think all of you are aware in the audience, COVID-19 has been presenting many, many challenges to the life of finance, to the life of small business, and to life in general. But at the same time, challenges always bring new opportunities. And that's what we're going to focus on today. We have some very interesting speakers who are going to talk about how they are adapting in their fintech services and how they are using fintech, how they are adapting their products and procedures to fit the new normal that we have in Africa and everywhere, thanks to this amazing and incredible and but at the same time stimulating pandemic. And we're going to hopefully come through this session feeling that while COVID has brought many dark clouds, there also is an important silver lining, and you can see it in the work of these great institutions. I have two fantastic panelists with me, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves right now briefly. First, let me turn to you, Angela. Please introduce yourself. This is Angela Mwirigi from KCB.
Yes, thank you. I'm Angela Mwirigi. I'm the Director for Digital Financial Services for KCB Group. KCB Group is a financial institution that is running across 7 countries in Eastern Africa. We're in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, and we have a representative office in Ethiopia. So we're very excited at the opportunity to be part of this FinTech Festival of the Nairobi Online City, because we firmly believe that FinTech, digital financial services, this is the future. And as a financial services group, we want to figure out how do we onboard even more Kenyans, more small business owners, how do we drive more inclusion, and how do we enable ourselves to be able to run in a more difficult environment like we have seen happen in the year 2020 during the pandemic. Thank you.
Great, and we look forward to diving into that in more detail during this panel, Angela. I just want to say to the audience, every time I talk to KCB, they seem to be bigger in more countries and doing more interesting things. So I'm really looking forward to finding out more. Now, let me turn to Faith Nkata. She's the country manager for Cellulant Kenya. Faith, tell us a bit more about Cellulant.
Thank you, Matthew. My name is Faith Nkata Gitonga, country manager for Kenya for Cellulant. Cellulant, I like to say, is by Africans for Africa. We're in 34 countries in Africa currently, and it's a fintech and payments company. And I say Cellulant is the largest payments network in Africa. And what's interesting is that we offer our solutions in 3 ways. Our flagship product, which is exciting for me to talk about because we enable banks to do digital banking. And digital banking has sort of expanded over the days and years. And it's not just the typical app that you get on your phone, but now you can even pay bills. And we do what we call bill aggregation, so that if you get the app, apart from just doing the normal digital banking, you can also pay for bills. The other interesting thing is that we do single settlements for global companies. So payments that you need to do outside the borders, we support you with that. And more important to this discussion today is local merchants, where we're able to integrate you to our payment gateway, and so that you can do collections for your customers, engage with them, what we call CRM, so that you can do text messaging to them, get more information from them, and also pay your bills as an SME. So that's Cellulant in a nutshell, taking care of banks and merchants.
Very good. And another company that every time I hear from them, they seem to be in more countries doing more things. Faith, let's follow up on that. You were talking about helping merchants digitalize. Of course, during the recent times, there's been a lot of constraint on merchant activity because of lockdowns and just general concern from the pandemic. How has Cellulant responded? Are you doing anything differently?
A lot, actually. In fact, in the last few months, what we've had to do is encourage what we're calling self-onboarding, because what you'll notice is that usually merchants would do a lot of touch like face-to-face meetings. Contracting was, more face-to-face and aspects like that. But we've developed a way where our merchants can come on board via self-onboarding, and that has just been embedded into our system. That's the first thing that comes to mind. And there are, of course, other aspects, because digital payments, for example, and transactions have, the traffic has really just skyrocketed. So we've had to upgrade our payment gateway so that way all these payments coming in, it's effective, there's least failures, and of course that the merchant is able to have just that seamless sort of transaction, so to speak. Yeah.
And are you finding that, because obviously when you're doing this self-onboarding and you need less physical presence, sometimes that can cause some concerns from the regulatory side. Traditionally, regulators like to see signed contracts and that you had people physically there and things. Are you getting an understanding treatment from the regulator during this time that's helping you accelerate this self-onboarding?
The regulator has been quite supportive, and to be honest, it's not 100% self-onboarding. There are aspects that will involve, like perhaps the physical signature or, just handing in the documents via email and aspects like that. But just the full process has been shortened through this online process that makes it easier. And we have security aspects, how we are saying that it's no longer the cyber, security, it's cyber resilience. So we've taken actions in that sense as well to just make sure we are covered in all those aspects to make it easy for the merchants and for ourselves.
Very interesting. And Angela, I know that KCB's been invested in digitalization for a long time. What has COVID done to your digitalization process?
Yeah, okay, so there is process, there is, like Faith mentioned, the size of transactions that we are running through our systems today. We have had the transactions that go between the bank and telcos multiplied by 10 from the beginning of the year to now. We've been able to onboard a couple more million customers onto our mobile banking platform. I mean, we've been running that platform since 2009. We are upgrading our platform this year because we've realized that the scale at which we need to run those transactions needs a lot more robustness, a lot more resilience, so that the platform is able to run a lot higher transactions per second. So our interest is in figuring out how do we ensure, like she mentioned, how do we ensure we onboard our customers easier? How do we ensure that they can transact at a much higher level, at a much faster pace, that the speed of the platform is actually very good, that there are hardly any failures of the platform. So we bought a platform about 2 years ago that we used to put our mobile lending product on, KCB M-Pesa. And KCB M-Pesa is a rather large product because it has 17 million customers on it, who are an average of 1.5 million people borrowing every month, and it was processing quite a number of transactions. So what we have done then is move even the mobile banking platform of the bank onto that, and all the mobile lending products of the bank onto this very strong, resilient platform that we got from Huawei. So this has really changed what we are able to do for customers, what we're able to do for individuals, what we're able to do for small business owners, so that we can truly transform the experience they're having with the bank. So the key thing with the Vuma platform is, and that's what we dubbed it the Vuma platform. Our interest was to see how do we ensure that it's easy for you to onboard, it's easy for the customer to transact, it's easy for the merchant to receive payments. How do we rapidly issue tills? We've had to issue tills, which is something we were not doing before, because a lot of our corporate clients even told us, I need you to digitize my supply chain. I need you to digitize my value chain. I need all my customers to stop walking around with cash. I need them to start being able to pay me directly into my bank account. So we provided them with tills so that they can sweep directly into the bank account of their suppliers. And this has truly transformed how we are working with our corporate banking teams, with our small and medium enterprise teams, our SME teams, to see how do we drive even more, what do you call it? I'm looking for the word that means speed, lots of speed through the system.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, faster throughput,
yes.
and also it sounds like you're having a very positive impact with more and more SMEs in not only in Kenya but in your other markets taking part in the digital services.
Exactly.
What is your sense of how the SME community is doing in general in being able to make that adaptation. And I've always found that African entrepreneurs are among the most resilient and adaptable in the world. Are you finding that?
Yes, absolutely. Because what we did is that we came at it twofold. We said if there is asset finance you need, if there is loans that we need to offer our customers, we have done extensions. We've done about 105 billion, which is about $1 billion worth of restructuring of the small business owner book. So we say we will extend the loan by 3 months. When we restructure, we will not charge any negotiation fee. We will give a moratorium for 3 months, so that especially around the March, April time, it was very bad, and people needed that time because the shock of the pandemic had stopped a lot of businesses from functioning at that point in time. So we needed to be able to give them a chance to recover and start to see that their businesses can run normally. So as people are normalizing again and by normalizing we mean, is there a way for the business to function? There's a lot of now you see online deliveries being done in Nairobi that you never used to see a lot of before. You see a lot of businesses have gone on Facebook, have gone on WhatsApp, they have set up websites. There's a lot of online space and mobile usage that has taken off to help businesses survive. So what we have done for us on our end is to figure out how do we make it easier for them to access the financial and non-financial services that they need. How do we help them create ERP systems? So we are rolling out acceptance POSs, Android-based, that can enable them to see and manage their transactions better. So there's a lot of interventions that we are pulling. We have seen a county like Laikipia, which is one of the counties in a part of Kenya, that said that they will cover part of the interest cost for small business owners, and therefore this has made it easier for small business owners in their county to take loans from the bank. There's a lot of interventions. There is a loan like the one we've gotten from IFC. From your organization to enable us support small business owners, especially and women-backed businesses, so that we can help drive sustainable, environmentally friendly businesses.
So that's very interesting, because as you're getting more and more businesses onto digital channels, you're learning more about them real time, and as you say, you're able to provide them with an even wider range of support, even going beyond finance, as you were talking about with the ERP systems. In Faith, in Cellulant, how are you using all this with more and more businesses coming onto your platform and having all that digital information? What's it enabling you to do to help them through this difficult crisis period?
Thank you for that. First, I'm so impressed as to what KCB is doing. It's quite fantastic, just supporting the SMEs. Just probably to add, we've seen such heavy traffic of what we call merchants, the SMEs, coming onto our platform, because a lot of them are moving into sort of the e-commerce way of doing business, so they need, a way for their customers to pay. They want sort of apps that make that easier. They need digital ways to make payments to their suppliers, so it's opening up a world of possibilities for the SMEs. The other interesting thing that I've noticed with the SMEs is that they have a hard time with reconciliation. So, maybe Faith is a merchant. I'm paid by my customers through M-Pesa. I'm paid via cash or any other payment method, maybe even card. And when it comes to reconciliation, most of them are putting up all these details, maybe on an Excel worksheet, so to speak. And so we're coming in and giving you a solution even for that. And what we've done is upgraded our payments gateway to be able to do that for SMEs, so that now, apart from just giving you a way to make the payments, you get the sort of platform to be able to do your reconciliations and just view that and monitor. And that has been fantastic. We've seen fantastic uptake as well. So that has been really, really good, so to speak. Yeah.
So that's very interesting, because then it's showing how your assistance for digitalization of these businesses is not only giving them better payments and financial services, it's at the same time, as you said, both giving them new market opportunities, new ways of dealing with their customers, and safer ways in a COVID environment, because they're contactless ways, and you're helping them to help understand their own business internally better, because you're providing ways to go well beyond even those entrepreneurs who have figured out how to use Excel. And I suspect that many of your entrepreneurs, it's not a move from Excel, it's a move from some paper ledger that they're trying to keep, if they have a ledger at all. And now you're giving it all to them, presumably through your cloud-based services.
I just thought of something, and what's happening with these merchants is that a lot of them in the SME sector, so to speak, are also getting so big on client management, like client relationship management, what we call CRM. And so they're coming to us and they're like, you know what, apart from me being able to sell my things online and my customers being able to pay digitally and getting all that solution, that they also want a way to handle that data better. They want ways to, get deeper into the customer's wallet and just engage with this customer. And so that's something else that we've been able to do as well, so that we can support them to collect, to pay their suppliers, and more importantly, just I'd probably say big data. Just in a small way, of course, for the SMEs, but just support them in that essence to be able to take care of their customers and the experience that they're getting.
Fascinating. So you're able to do the things that we always used to see as only the purview of the bigger companies. You can really understand your customers. You can reward the ones who are more loyal. You can even get into, I'm assuming that both you and KCB are finding ways to use this to get into consumer financing from the merchant side. You can buy now, pay later, so you buy more. And we figure out who's a loyal client, who we can do that with, and who's too much of a risk.
Actually, to that end, one of the points we've been trying to make to small business owners is that the more cashless they go, the fact that they can reconcile their businesses, or all the card payments that they get, the mobile payments that they get, even their cash payments, if they could actually shift those cash payments entirely cashless, then the bank is able to do cash flow lending. Because one of the greatest challenges small business owners face is how do they access lending that is priced at a much better price than they would ordinarily be able to access. Because what happens? Banks require you to have collateral. You must have land, cars, whatnot. And for a lot of these small business owners, this is a challenge. So what we've been advising them that it is important, and the reason we've been issuing them with TILs, trying to tell them that they use our APIs to set up their online businesses, take card payments, take mobile payments. Let us be able to see what the cash flow looks like for your business. This is extremely important, and I get a lot of pushback sometimes from small business owners, and they say that it is a bit more costly to do it, and they would rather not have the cost. So as a bank, one of the things we are doing with our platform is we are trying to provide it at near cash cost, so that they can be able to do this, to enable the transfers, to enable the acceptance, to enable the collections at a near cash cost, because cash is at a zero cost. So if we can enable that and we can see their transactions, we can turn around and say, we will monetize the cost of enabling you to do this through lending. And if we can see the transactions of that business, then we can do what we have is a product we call a retailer financing product. So the retailer financing product, the way it's working right now is that we lend them actually on a weekly basis. So that if you're buying stock from your distributor is able to supply you, and you are able to repay that distributor almost without having to worry about the credit lag. Whether or not you sold all the stocks, the bank will then lend you, and that keeps the distributor running smoothly, and it enables the retailer to expand what they are buying. And
so just to dissect that a little bit, in case some of our audience didn't catch that. I mean, and some people call that a merchant cash advance. You're helping the merchant. You stand there between the merchant and the distributor of the fast-moving consumer products, and you're offering virtually continuous credit, and you're using the electronic payment system to worry about the repayments against that, as opposed to the more conventional microcredit way of doing it, where, oh yes, we give you a short loan and we give it quickly, but then, on this day you have to pay this much, and on that day you have to pay that much, and we can't handle a third party in the deal because that makes it too complicated.
Yes.
So it's a real interesting new innovation.
Yes. So our intention usually is that we use the data from the distributor. So the distributor tells us, this is what my retail, I have 23,000 retailers, for instance, and this is their buying pattern. So if we take a particular retailer, we'll understand this is how much he buys every week, this is how he repays, and this is the cycle he keeps up. So we use that data, put it into our algorithm, spit out what his limit should be, and then provide that on his mobile till. So that from his mobile till, he can then pick that credit and request to get stocks worth the credit limit we've provided, and the distributor gets paid immediately. And this enables both of them then to function, because the credit function moves entirely to the bank, and it is no longer the burden of the retailer or the distributor. And this enables both of them to grow significantly in a rather short space of time.
Yes, and the other thing, as you're pointing out, because you have that real-time information, you're able to adapt with the business cycles of the retailers. So if they have a lot of business, or you can help them stock up for it, and if they have a slower time, that's okay, because you're seeing that and you're able to adjust on the fly, which is another thing that was not a part of the relationship you might have had before. Very, very interesting indeed.
Yes, we've been running that program actually for a while. The difference is that now when we first launched the program, we had started it with Unilever and MasterCard. And what we had done was provided virtual cards to the retailers. Then we gave them to all the retailers that were selling Unilever products and their distributors. And we set up this system to be card-based. But we've realized...
This is the Jazaduka program,
for people that haven't exactly.
heard. It won an SME Finance Forum Award the other year. That's why I have to mention it.
Exactly. It's a couple of years old now. But we decided this needs to be scaled up widely. And the only way to scale it up widely is to move it from being the purview of one big entity and move it actually to the distributor level, wholesaler level. So that's who we get the data for the retailers from, and then we can now provide it pretty much to anyone who is open to doing that type of business. And it enables then everyone to be able, and especially in this time where it is so difficult, and you want to ensure that the credit is being used to actually drive and grow the business. This enables you to ensure that, because you actually pay directly to the distributor, you don't necessarily pay directly to the retailer. So this enables the business to keep rolling, and the shocks of business do not hit the small businessman.
What's been the impact of COVID on all this? Are you seeing even more businesses come to you and want to be in on this because they've seen the problems of restricted movement and other things that can happen?
Actually, not just restricted movement. The fact that there are some insecurities that are coming through now as the economy becomes tougher. So nobody wants to manage cash. And we are seeing this across various industries, not just FMCG. People who are doing, the road contractors, for instance, are telling us, we don't want to have to pay our people in cash. We would like to do bulk disbursements straight to their mobile wallets, and they can cash out in a disbursed manner. So then they can go to an ATM, go to a bank agent or a mobile agent and cash out there. And that is a lot safer for everybody involved. There is a safety of, away from the pandemic, but there is also an insecurity issue that you then overcome by spreading out the risk, so that it's no longer. So anyone who is in this type of business, and I'm saying even like people who have large tea farms, for instance, and it's labor intensive, there's lots of people to pay, or flower farms for that matter. So a lot of the people who are in different types of industries and businesses and who need to do bulk disbursements can benefit from the platform. It is not just, we are not just working only with the FMCG industry.
That's very, very interesting. And Faith, I expect you're seeing that sort of change too, because I remember a few years ago, we used to contrast, say, East Africa with China. And we said, well, okay, both of them have fantastic digital payments innovation, M-Pesa and all that. But the difference is in China, it seems to be all the payments that are going through this channel. But in Eastern Africa, some of the bigger payments are going through the channel, but most of these smaller ticket payments are still in cash. It sounds to me like there's been a profound transformation, one that COVID may have accelerated into almost a cashless, I know it's not cashless where you are, but it's really heading quickly toward a cashless economy, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree with you. In fact, I wanted to add to what Angela was saying. It's quite interesting. a lot of the banks are coming to us with those same kind of requests, where we need to just give solutions for, just that full cycle of cash, whether it's FMCG, we've had the education system, and perhaps even when you're looking at the education sector, for example, it's even bigger because the banks not only need a solution for the school, but even for the parent in essence. So we are looking at both the corporate and the consumer sort of solution there. And it's things that we're working on to just make sure that as Cellulant, with the platforms that we have, we can enable these organizations to be able to, whether it's make the collections or even the payouts, and even to the larger cycle that they take care of, whether it's that FMCG or the distributor down to the truck. Some of these FMCGs have the trucks that collect cash and drive around with cash, and being able to offer solutions for that has been fantastic. And the interesting thing again, and I'll call it reconciliation again, is that a lot of these FMCGs, however large they are, don't have proper reconciliation. Again, they still do a lot of these things archaic because they're like, you know what, I can't afford a proper ERP system. So once things leave the main FMCG and goes into the distributor, it's all messed up. And so we are coming in to just create sanity, so to speak, in that end, and just make it easy for those payments and collections to happen.
Very interesting. And presumably that same previous lack of reconciliation ability also created problems like later payments or disputes between or other difficulties in that relationship. And now, quite the contrary, you can take that greater knowledge, and your corporate treasurer in that bigger company providing those consumer goods can find ways to put their capital to better use.
Yes, I agree. And the interesting thing about this payment gateway is that when we give you access to that it's live, so to speak. So you can be able to see things as they happen. So down the distribution cycle, you're able to know what's happening, what payments are coming in, what payments are failing, because I think that's important as well. And so it just creates a complete way for this person to be able to even make decisions, so to speak, improve their processes, so to speak, and like you rightly say, just focus their energies elsewhere because time is saved as well. So we've seen it, and what we see the banks saying, and maybe you would agree with that, is that it's creating stickability for their customers, because now the bank is not only just offering the typical current account and loan, that we are helping them connect to their consumers better and be better to their customers. And all those deposits at the end of the day will come to the bank. And yes, so Cellulant is at the back of that, which is fantastic as well.
Very interesting. And I think stickability is a very important concept. And it also improves risk management, because if you are just my financier, then if I don't pay you, okay, then maybe you're not going to finance me again. But if you're my financier and you're my link to my buyers, my sellers, my own internal business information apps, I don't want to lose all those. So of course I'm going to pay you back. Of course I'm going to be a good, exhibit good behavior. So it's actually, at the same time as it's offering better services for your clients, it's giving them every incentive to be more reliable, isn't it?
Yeah, it's true. It actually gives them more incentive to be more reliable, but more importantly is that you can then lend them with the confidence that because I can see what's happening with your business, you can trust that I am going to be able to adjust where necessary. Because it's not that banks want to hound their customers when it is inconvenient or when they're not able to pay. Because sometimes you find that the conversation with the customer is, if you can build more trust by having more information traded between the two of you, then you have a lot more trust and can able to support them manage their businesses better. And if you can even do the early interventions early enough for you to be able to resolve the issues that might be creating that challenge, that is a winning proposition for both the bank and the business. But I wanted to touch on something you mentioned about the economy getting a lot more cash light. And it is getting there, and there has been great strides, and I believe this year is one of those odd ones where we've actually made a huge leap forward, and I know that there is no turning back, and it is only going to go, it's only going to digitize and get stronger and stronger, and technology will be leveraged even more and more. And that is fantastic. But I think there are markets like in India where I have seen them doing concerted efforts to move small payments into the digital space. What I would want to see in this part of the world is that we are making concerted efforts to shift small payments into the cash-light space. So I'm thinking your transport, your small retail payments, you're thinking about open air markets. How do I enable all the way down to that lady who sits selling her tomatoes and vegetables in the open air markets to be able to get a till just as easily. Now, we have enabled them to do that by walking into a KCB bank branch, and they can get one and walk out with one in 2 minutes. But the happy space will be when we can get to where Faith is getting to, where we can enable self-registration.
I like what the direction your thought is going, because that's where we are thinking as well. And I don't know if you've heard of our Ting app. We call it the Super App. And, you can get it as an app. Or you could get it. You could use USSD, the USSD code, if you don't have a smartphone. And what's fantastic about it is that for the mama mboga, like you said, the boda guy, the people making the 50 shillings payments or receiving the 50 shillings collections, this app is able to help you do that. So whether we are bill aggregators. So we are working with the KPLCs, the Nairobi Waters, and just any sort of common utility bills, so to speak. And so we're able to help the mama mboga, sort out those payments and collections, and also be able to pay those sort of bills as well easily using that USSD code. So you put in your *369# and scroll down and make your payment or receive a payment, or pay for that electricity bill because you've gotten a call from home and someone needs that electricity bill paid. So those are some of the things that we're thinking of doing, and we are partnering with also a lot of organizations that are thinking in the same direction, whether it's the FMCGs, the insurance companies who want to offer solutions to that same mama mboga or boda person. So wow, sky is the limit, I guess.
The opportunity is very big. Very big. Actually, we are nowhere close, because we estimate that 90% of transactions in Kenya are still in cash. And this needs to change, and change fast. So it feels like we make great strides. But that is because it's the big transactions, yes, those have shifted. There is a lot of P2P, the person-to-person transfers, those have shifted, yes. But there is a lot of small payments in transport, in retail, that still happen in cash. And those are the spaces we think can transform and change very quickly. So, and that's why I said, we are issuing tills, we are putting out apps, we have the Vuma apps even on Play Stores and on iOS and so forth, and we have USSD codes, like you said, and really our interest is to figure out how do we drive this access and drive this access as quickly, affordably, make people aware of it, right? How do we recruit people rapidly and enable them to self-onboard? And the beauty of it is that there are lots of fintechs, big players, small players. Everybody is very keen and excited to do this. So I'm looking forward to great things in 2021-22.
I think that has been the blessing of COVID.
And
even I know, right? And even for the government as well, how they've, just have had to fast track digital transformation. And that is, we'll have, if it's not started already, having, like that ripple effect in the small businesses and how things are done. I foresee things changing in the transport sector, and, we won't have to pay cash in a matatu. I foresee things changing as well, with the mama mboga, like we're saying as well. And just in the health sector, in education, so I know there's many sad sides to COVID, but I think it's been a blessing in just, bringing up that realization that things just have to be done differently. And I'm really excited about that. And one of the things that I'm super excited about, and I think banks are at the forefront with that, is, banks now are able to hold such big data. And tomorrow, if the government can be able to centralize that data, we can finally talk about blockchain, in our country, and bigger stories like those. And so it's exciting to see what will happen in 2021 and beyond.
Well, I'm very excited too. And I'm amazed at the adaptability and openness to innovation that you're describing. Let me just challenge one thing. I mean, if I compare to what's going on, you mentioned India, we've talked about China. The difference that I'm seeing with those Asian countries and what's happening in Africa is you're still putting a lot of time into the USSD types of interventions, which at the end of the day, I'm sorry, I can't see paying on a matatu with USSD and scrolling down and doing that. The people are going to kill me behind me in the queue, right? But you know, but the reason you're doing that is not that you don't have the technology to do the apps, because you're talking about apps, but it's too darned expensive to run data in your countries, whereas in India and China, it's almost free.
As a bank, we've spent quite a bit of time with the telcos having these conversations about device and data, because we said, you see, it's not just the fact that there are a lot of feature phones in this market, but even the next level, which is internet-enabled phones, does not quite cut it. What we need are smartphones, and we need smartphones at scale and at a price point that works. So there has been some small interventions that have started to see the light of day, where we've seen one or two telcos come up with a daily repayment rate for Kenyans to shift from buying an internet-enabled or feature phone and buy a smartphone. However, the numbers are still very low, because we are talking about 150,000 units on average every year going into the market. So what we need is to see proper scale. And I know I looked at China and noticed that in the entire Southeast Asia, that is what happened. So they had the smartphones proliferating from the big market into the smaller ones and so on. And there were buying plans that enabled people to get it at a fair price. So what we are focused on, and as a bank, the partnerships we've been looking for, is to see how do we work with the telcos that are in the market to build this at scale. How do we do device financing so that we can figure out a price point that works? How do we get an OEM, a manufacturer, who is able to provide us a gadget that works for Eastern Africa, that is resilient enough to be able to work even in difficult environments, you know, because there's a lot of our people who will work in the informal sector. And we want to provide this at a price point that does not create a security issue. So we know that there is opportunity, and that is the future. And we are working towards that. It's just going to take us a bit of a lag between what we are ready to do and how ready the infrastructure is to support that. So in our view, the key is that you don't give up. You try to drive both of them almost concurrently. And then we drive the device and data conversation also with key telcos that are willing and able to do this.
I hear you nodding, Faith. You're having similar experiences.
No, I was actually wondering if there's something I could add, because exactly what she's saying is what we are doing as well. Just sitting with these MNOs, trying to have those sort of discussions to figure out how that would work. But to be honest with you, we are also going back to innovation as well, because this has worked in other markets, like you've said. So just to sit back and see, is there ways this can be done differently for us, and perhaps give options, more options as well, that don't involve the USSD, and cheaper options as well, so that the development is cheaper, and that means the front end is cheaper as well. So innovation is also coming in to play, and a lot of those discussions, and perhaps we need to involve the government as well in those discussions, because that play involves the government as well.
Well, certainly that's been the case in Asia, where government's been a major player in enabling the sort of things we describe. I also think that you know, taking a page from the book of KCB that Angela was describing, where, you know, within one institution you're finding ways. Okay, if we're doing all this digital payments, but we're able to lend on it, then we don't have to worry as much about the charges for the payments, because we're making other services. If you can find ways across institutions to have partnerships for revenue sharing, then that may open up, and you're going to obviously have to include the internet service providers in that equation. Maybe that also, from a private point of view, can also help drive things farther.
Absolutely. I mean, for us, we are determined to build an open ecosystem from the bank, from the bank running to other banks, integrate all the other banks. We're having conversations with them. Can we integrate? Can we have the conversations where we link all the telcos, all the banks, have one payment system? Because we know a lot of places this has succeeded, not because there was one big provider or a closed ecosystem. You must have an open ecosystem that works across platforms, and like you say, where you have revenue share models so that you can have everybody willing to participate. If you think about SMEs, the only way they will be able to onboard and get some of these services is if there is a way for them to access them regardless of who they are talking to, who they work with, who they bank with. And our interest is that we don't think that it is necessary for you to change who you're banking with for us to be able to provide the service that works for you.
I'm so happy you're thinking that direction, because really that's the future. And some of the discussions we've been having is, you know, a world where you walk into a supermarket and you bank with Bank X, and the supermarket, you know, like banks with a different bank, and you can do a transaction all through without, you know, too much of the intermediary, you know, and that of course means that the banks have to come together in that sort of way. Some interesting discussions we've been having, and you know, just solutions we're thinking about and doing is, you know, e-commerce, for example. A lot of people maybe will get onto, let me not name some of the names, but you know what I mean, just these e-commerce platforms. And you see what happens is that if I got on there to maybe buy a book, for example, or whatever I'm buying from that platform, I should be able to maybe even pay for my bus fare from that same platform, you know, and you know, so that even excludes the USSD discussion completely, because these platforms are already there. So how do we capitalize on them to be able to do more? And so those are things that are keeping Cellulant awake at night, to just get those up and running, to just perhaps give easier ways, cheaper ways for payments and collections to happen, so to speak.
That's a very, very important point, you know, and also we have abundant lessons from e-commerce that the more clicks you have to do to complete your transaction, the more transactions end up being abandoned. And of course, you don't want that to happen, right? And so somehow you need the system to be integrated so that, and also what puts people off is if you do have an internet-enabled device, when you suddenly get transferred to a different website that looks very different. A lot of people cut out at that time. We have ample evidence. So it's figuring out how to have that system where it's all seamless. The Alibaba and Amazon experience, you know, are usually used as the models.
They have strong systems. They have figured out how to get people to be able to buy very quickly, how to make recommendations. They truly have clearly fantastic AIs. And you know, and it might be possible for us to think about how do we even create aggregated platforms at the top of it, because that's what they are. And the key thing is that change is snap of a finger. It takes a very short time for people to adopt to a new reality and a new normal. So I know that there is no way we are going to roll it back. So all I'm interested in is figuring out how do we catch up to expectations of our customers.
That's really, really fascinating. I mean, and as you're saying, COVID has just accelerated not only what's going on within your institutions, but within your customers' own minds. And things that we thought might take decades or years are taking, it seems, minutes. Many of these things are permanently changed, and it sounds like both in KCB and in Cellulant, you are very, very ready for this change. It's
and Matthew,
and I could talk to you all for ages and ages, but I have a feeling we really need to wrap this up now.
Can I add something before you wrap up?
Yes, please. But before I wrap, definitely.
I just wanted to add that the other day I was reading an interesting report that has just changed my outlook. And Gartner said that what they feel is different moving forward after the digital age, when asked what they think would be next, is that it's going to be a continuous next. And that for me was quite fantastic as we planned for 2021, and rightly what you're saying, because I think back to the Cellulant story, for example. It started off as a ringtone business. I don't know, Matthew, if you understand what ringtone would mean, but for Kenyans and Africans, it's something quite popular. And where, ringtone business was a big deal those days.
True.
And I remember I was a banker when Cellulant first walked into our offices and told us about digital banking, and we're like, who even thinks this would work? I'd want to do my banking on the phone, and it didn't make sense those days. And you look at now where, we have 150 banks and, digital banking has taken over banking as we know it. And even for you as banks, if you keep thinking brick and mortar, then you lose out. And so it's exciting to just think that it's just continuous next, that we have to just keep innovating. And if it sounds ridiculous, the more you should think about it, because perhaps in the next year, that's what will make sense for us, So it's exciting times and interesting times to just think about what this continuous next could hold for us as financial institutions, payments companies, to just make sure we remain relevant and we get closer to the unbanked as well, because they need that as well.
Yes, I really feel that, especially in Africa, you're ready for this continuous next, because you're just throughout the continent, we see people that are ready. They get all sorts of changes they have to adapt to every day, and so they find change maybe less off-putting than we do where I come from here in the West, and that's symptomatic of just how much things have changed, and how much our two institutions, KCB and Cellulant, embody much of these important changes that have come to Africa and many other parts of the world. This has been a really fascinating session. I want to thank our presenters, Angela Murigi from KCB and Faith Nkata from Cellulant. Your companies, your work is so impressive. I am so inspired. I am sure that the work you are doing is going to rocket things even further forward, as you were saying, impelled by the positive momentum this terrible negative impact of COVID has ironically created. And with that, let me turn things back over to our MC to take you to the next portion of our great program of the Afro-Asia FinTech Festival.